Hello and welcome to this tutorial for the C300 Mark II camera from Canon. It's from the cinema line of Canon. It has the little red square there with a C on it. And in difference with the Mark I version, this one can do 4K. It can do 2K and Full HD, and with several color variations like 444, etc. You have quite a lot of options for the color in this camera. The image that comes out is pretty similar to Blackmagic cameras. So, this camera, you can buy it with the PL mount or with an EF mount. This one has an EF mount, so if you have a 5D camera, you could use the same lenses that you use with your 5D. It's very easily attached. Just like that, there you go. The lens has been quickly attached, and we have a very light version of this camera. It's a pretty lightweight camera. That's quite practical. You can buy it with this, it comes with this handle, and you can screw it on and off, and you can put it backwards as well, and as you can see, there are several options for mounting several other things. Here on the top of the camera, you can mount a display which comes with the camera when you buy it, and it's right here. It's this display. You can put with a shoe mount, you can put it up here, and you have to attach it quite firmly with this thing that you turn, because it easily comes off if you don't attach it very well. If you don't push hard here when you're screwing it on, it'll come off. It's not very well made. So this is my favorite position for it. You can also put it here. I know a lot of people that work with it here on this front shoe mount, but I prefer it on the top of the camera right here. And so you can open it up, and there it is. There's your display, and it has several options for moving it around. It has you can choose whichever one you like. So let's keep talking about the body of the camera. Most of the important buttons are here on the side of it. You have the basic things for the basic buttons of operation right there. Before we start it up, let's get this battery on. It does not come with the camera when you buy it, but they have a pretty practical button here which indicates whether the battery is full, half full, or empty. So you put it on right here. There we go. And there's the slots for the cards. It uses the same cards as the Alexa. You can use the C-Fast camera recording cards. So you open it up like that, and it has two slots, so you can record quite a lot. This one is a 128 gigabyte card, and it goes in right there quite easily. There we go. You can choose which card you use by using this little button right here, the slot select. You press in, you can use A card or B card. So you turn it on right here with this little thing that you turn. If you want to watch your clips, you go to media. If you want to record, you go to camera. So there we go. We're going to turn it on, and you're going to hear the fan. It has a fan to cool off the internal system, but it will not affect your sound even if you're using the internal microphone of the camera. It's a very, very subtle fan, and it's very efficient. Here's the viewfinder, which I never use. I've never liked to use viewfinders in video or film cameras, but it's pretty useful when you're going out in the streets and you want to take this part off and this display off, and you just want to have a smaller camera. You can just have the camera and the lens, and you can operate it like that. You have the menu buttons right here. You have everything you need to work the camera. You have buttons on the display as well, on this display up here, but you have everything else right here. And there's also a grip that comes with the camera. It's this grip handle right here. It'll be attached to, well, it'll come with the camera if you buy this camera. So you just plug in this little like mini plug thing, and you screw this on to the side of the camera right here. There's a tiny little thing right here which indicates that this part goes up, and so you just push it in, You don't even have to screw it in, you just push it in. And there you go. You have to give it a bit of a push because it's pretty easy for it not to be detected. And you need to push it pretty kind of a little hard for it to work. I use the handle this way, just straight, but you can attach it in other ways. You can use that handle upwards a bit more, downwards a bit more. So there we go. There's a handle attached right here, and that's pretty good. You have a pretty good grip of the camera. I find it ergonomic. I just don't like this little cables very much on the side, like the video and the audio cables, which are the same connection. I don't like them too much because they are in my way when I am when I have a wall right here next to my hand where I'm filming, and they're in my way when I'm filming. But anyway, they work pretty well otherwise, other than the physical problem that they represent, because they take up space. But anyway, if you work with film cameras, other film cameras, other professional video cameras are quite spacious when you start attaching things to them, so you might be used to that. So you just push these cables in like that. You don't have to screw them on. You put the little triangle with the little triangle, and that's all. And if you want them to come off, you just push this little thing backwards, and then you push the whole cable out, and that works pretty well. What I find that doesn't work too well is this part here, the DC plug. If you're not using a battery, you can use this thing to plug in a cable that comes with the camera when you buy it, and it's this cable right here, which is a power cable. And I find it unpractical because when you put this thing where it goes in the camera, that means right here when you attach it, when you push it in, it kind of works like this other cables, but these other cables are well made in this regard. This one, when you're pushing it out, you have to push this back and then you pull it out, and it feels like you're going to break the cable. It feels like you're forcing it. It feels like you're gonna. I never like using this because I feel like I'm going to damage the equipment, so I never use this cable. But anyway, you might work in a studio and maybe you never use batteries, so you would have to use that. So there we go. Our camera has the audio and video cables for my monitor to be operational right there. There's our monitor on, and well, you can go to the menu and use this monitor to see what you're filming. Let's take this lid off. So there we go. Our camera is on, and we are now ready to begin the other explanation for the other functions. So there's the display thing. You can tilt it to the side. I'm tilting it sideways, but as you can see, it can move around pretty much any way you want. So we've got the menu with the main functions that you'll need right there, which, as I said before, you can operate from right here, and you can work the whole thing from here. You can go to menu right here as well. You can go to ISO, shutter, slow motion, frame rate. You can magnify for approaching objects and focusing on them. You've got zebra, peaking, ND filters. One of the times when I used an ND filter, they indicate a little ND right here on the bottom of the screen, and it was troublesome because I didn't notice it. It's got a tiny thing there when you're using an ND filter, and that wasn't very good because I didn't notice I had switched it on. But anyway, you might be more careful than me and not use an ND filter when you don't need it. In case you don't know what the ND filter is, the ND makes things darker. I'm going to press a button right here. ND filter, I'm going to go one step. So it goes darker. Actually, that was 2 stops. That's 4 stops, etc. 6, 8, and then I go to 10 stops. That's really dark. And then one more time and I'm back to no ND filter activated. So there we go. No ND filter activated. And you've got your indications right here. F-stops, ISO, shutter on the bottom. You have the controls right here for playing back video when you're on the media mode. And you have a record button right here. The camera has several record buttons. It has a record button right here on the bottom, and then it has one on the hand grip as well. So it's got several options that you can use for pressing the record button. You have your audio controls right here on the display thing, because the display has attached to it the microphone connections. It has XLR connections right here, 1 and 2, so you can attach a microphone right here, a shotgun microphone for recording, which I often use, and you can plug those XLR cables here and here, and then you can it also has an internal recording option, an internal microphone down here, over here on the front, right there. If you are recording with the two cables attached, with both the audio and the video cables attached, the sound will be recorded internally from in here on the microphone, and it'll go to channel 3 and 4, something like that. If you want to use the camera's microphone, which pretty much nobody uses, but it can be quite practical, and I have to say it's a pretty good microphone. If you want to use that one, the reference microphone, you might want to unplug the audio cable from up here. If you do that, if you unplug the audio cable from up here, the audio will be recorded on channel 1. So if you're watching your material, your video clips on Premiere Pro, you will be able to hear your material straight away on channel 1, or if you're using any other programs to hear your recorded clips, you will be able to hear all that on channel 1, like VLC will play back straight away on channel 1. You can switch to channel 4 and 3, but you have to find a button and push it. So for it to be more practical, you can do that. So let's go into the camera operational buttons. If you want to work the ISO, you press right here on ISO, and then you turn the little wheel thing here, and you can see what you're doing up here on the display right here. So I'm going to press that ISO, and I've got an orange highlight right there, and then I turn the little wheel thing and I'll change the values, and when I'm ready to settle for an ISO value, you just have to press the set button, which is the center of this wheel donut thing. So it's the same thing with the shutter. You press shutter and it'll highlight on the bottom of the screen your shutter values. So you press it and you switch it with the same wheel thing. So it's the same thing for several other the main functions. You have to go into the menu and set which type of peaking you want for the focus peaking, which I often use. It's really practical. It's a very good focus peaking tool that this camera has. You can magnify here too with the magnify button. The display attached to the camera has a magnify button which works quite well, and it's right here if you wanna use it for focusing. So the main things: ISO, shutter, there, right there. You got zebra here, and of course you can make your own custom selection of what you want, of the buttons that you want there on this buttons. You can switch everything around. I never do that. I just leave it the way it is. You have white balance down here, and then it can become play stop. If you take off this display thing, it'll play and stop your clips if you don't have the display attached to the camera. So I'm going to go into the menu. I'm going to go into the menu now, that the camera is running. And let's check out what we have here. Right here in the menu. Okay. Yeah. As you can see, there's a little joystick thing that you can use to navigate in this menu, and it is a tiny little joystick which is right here. So you can go down, you can go up, and of course sideways if you want to go into one of the functions. So you go into the camera setup, and you might want to go into light metering, etc. ISO, gain, iris, extended ND range, shutter, white balance. Right there you got the white balance setup, focus, etc. Color bars, several things on this camera setup function. You got the custom picture, you have audio setup, you have recording media setup. So you can with this you can format your cards as if you were using a 5D camera. You can format cards with right there with initialize media. So I just press with on the joystick thing right here. I'm gonna be pressing that. I'm gonna choose that, and you have the choice between A card and C card and little SD card where you can record proxies. So if I wanted to format my card, I would just press OK. This will erase all data on the card. Yep, I do want to do that initializing. Okay, successful. I erased my CFast card. So there we go, I just initialized the media. I go back. System frequencies 24 Hz because I want to use 24 frames per second. So you have several choices down here. 4K raw color space, and we've got a cinematic gamut there, and there's other options. Recording mode, normal recording, resolution sampling. I have chosen right here 1920 by 1080. That's full HD. RGB 444 12-bit. You have 10 bits as well. You have lots of options there. You've got 4K, and that'll be 4096 by 2160 with a 10-bit color space, etc. It goes down to 2K. It goes down to full HD, and you can record 10-bit as well. I usually use full HD with 12 bits. So let's go down here in the menu explore, and you have several things. Metadata, which you can enter on your clips, HDMI code, photo numbering, etc. So we go down to here to picture terminals setup, and once again you have several options. You've got Genlock sync out, etc. Timecode user bit, viewfinder setup, custom display, LCD setup, viewfinder setup, lots of things. And so we go down to assistance functions. There we go, focus guide, peaking, that's really useful. Zebra, you can choose the type of peaking that you want. Activate, it's activated on LCD. It's on display NBF, it's on. I have used the HDMI out cable, and you will need a professional screen for HDMI. I've never been able to plug in a simple household computer screen to it. The color that this camera will give you is quite tremendous. So I think you will need a professional monitor for this to monitor the image output of this camera. So you've got markers, lot, black and white image. You can activate it. You can activate a display. What I do is I activate and deactivate this thing because I frequently use black and white. So if you have black and white image, you'll have black and white image right here on the screen, but you'll be recording on color. So if you want to do black and white with that image in post-production, you can just desaturate, and that's it. I've never recorded anything on full black and white in this camera. I've always used color and then I desaturate. There we go. Several functions in this section. System setup. Once again, you got all your functions right there. Tally lamp, etc. Network settings, firmware, all that. And then we've got my menu, so you can I think you can edit your own menu right here. So that's it. That's the exploring the menu. And well, I think for a brief cover up of the whole thing of the camera, that's it. I find this camera a very lightweight camera. I find it quite ergonomic. It's not a heavy camera to use. I find it very practical for a handheld camera. I've used it loads of time for handheld operating it handheld and filming things. And well, there it is. You might want to use a heavy tripod because it's too heavy for a tripod that can hold a 5D camera. I have one of those and it's just a bit too heavy for that, but it's still a pretty light camera. And so that's pretty much it. That covers the basic thing. CFast cards, those expensive batteries that go down here, the buttons that are there, here, and the hand grip also has this joystick thing here on your thumb, and one button here, focus guide, right here, the focus guide button, and a couple of other things here, the thing to start recording and the thing to well, there's this other control thing. There's a button kind of like a 5D. If you have used a 5D camera, you'll find the use of this camera something a bit similar, and if you have used professional cameras, you'll find the menu very, very friendly. I find the image to be like the Blackmagic camera, only it's much more expensive than that. So there it is. Basic functions of this camera. If you have any questions of specific functions of the camera, I might be able to answer them. So you can just enter the question there on the comments thing. I often do black and white, so that's why I pointed out how to switch the monitor to black and white. And you can do slow motion as well. It goes to 120 frames per second, which is not a lot. I prefer a Phantom camera for that, but I mean that's really expensive, so I've never used a Phantom camera, but I am very much into the idea of doing so. I go into the menu and then I switch to this right here, the recording media setup. You go to recording mode, normal recording, slow and fast motion, crop. I like 120 frames per second. So if you go into that, your image will be cropped to 720. It will not do it in full HD, 4K or 2K, but it's a very beautiful thing to do 120 frames per second with this camera. I strongly recommend it. When you switch on and off, like slow motion, or when you switch the camera on and off, some of the things here on the settings might change, so you need to check your settings every time you switch the camera on and off, every time you take the card out, inside and out, when you switch cards. So that's it. That is it for this C300 film camera. Well, it's not a film camera, it's a HD video camera, but that's what we make films these days with. So it's a really lightweight, practical of use camera, and if you apply your settings the way you like them, you might get a very, very beautiful image for your fiction films or whatever it is that you're filming. Thank you very much for watching.